AI for fundraisers, right? It's everywhere you look these days, isn't it? But how do we actually use it? Where do you even begin? Especially with everything else us fundraisers have to handle.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? You're drowning in information even before you start.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
we need another complicated thing to figure out. That's why I really like this article we're diving into today. It gets that. It understands that nonprofits don't have unlimited time and people. It gives you a really practical, step-by-step approach, kind of a roadmap with 3 clear starting points to start using AI. What really stood out to you about their method?
I think it's great that they actually seem to get how nervous nonprofits are about this whole thing. They could have just hyped up AI like everyone else, but instead they really get into the practical stuff, like that wave the green flag idea that's so important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they had this wild statistic in the article, something like almost half of fundraisers are already using AI in some form,
Wow.
right? It shows you how much people actually want to use these tools.
hmm
But then it also made me think, if everyone's just kind of figuring it out on their own, are we just setting ourselves up for problems down the line?
Yeah, you definitely don't want people going off in all directions. I think that's exactly where that top-down approach comes in. It's not about like stopping people from trying new things, but making sure everyone's using AI responsibly. I mean, think what we could do if we could combine that excitement with clear guidance from leadership.
It's like giving the go-ahead, that green light you mentioned, to experiment, but within a framework, right? So everyone's on the same page. That's where their idea of an AI mandate is interesting. It doesn't have to be this huge, intimidating document.
Exactly. Even something short and simple. Just something that acknowledges AI, lays out some very basic guidelines. That can do a lot for trust and transparency.
It's about creating the right environment, setting the stage, for people to experiment without being scared to try things out. But, and maybe this is just me, but won't that push back against all that initial energy, all those people who are actually excited about AI? It's a tough balance, getting people on board while also setting boundaries.
And that's where the next step comes in, and it might be my favorite part. It's all about identifying your secret cyborgs, as they call them. You know, the people who are already playing around with AI, maybe under the radar. They're the key.
Secret cyborgs, I love that. Our in-house AI ninjas, quietly changing the world. So how do we get them to come out into the open? In a good way, of course.
It all comes down to culture, right? You have to
Yeah.
build a culture where people feel like they can talk about what they're trying, what's working, what's not working. Could be anything, you know? Lunch and Learns, a Slack channel where people share AI tips,
Yeah.
celebrate their wins, and, you know, sometimes their experiments that maybe didn't work out. Because let's face it, not everything's going to be a home run right away.
And sometimes those are the best learning experiences, right?
Yeah.
When it blows up in your face, you learn way more from that than when something works perfectly the first time. Okay, so we've got the green light from the top. We know who our AI ninjas are.
Yeah.
What's next? How do we actually equip them? Give them what they need to really explore this stuff.
That's step 3, access. Because it's one thing to read an article about AI, even to understand it in theory. But when you can actually use it, that's totally different.
Night and day. It's like you can read a travel brochure, right? Or you can get on a plane and actually experience the place.
Exactly. And the good news is, you don't need a massive budget to do it. You don't even need fancy software. You can start experimenting with free tools like ChatGPT, and that alone can really open your eyes.
So it's less about having everything perfectly planned, more about just letting people loose.
Exactly. Let them play around a little. Of course, the article does a good job of highlighting 3 areas where AI can make a real difference for fundraisers right now: content, strategy, and data.
Okay, so let's break those down. Starting with content, that's a big one. Writing fundraising appeals, thank you notes, even social media posts. That stuff can eat up so much of a fundraiser's time. How can AI help us be more efficient with that, get more done in less time?